It's actually very freeing to realize whatever is true, it's a lot bigger than what I thought was true.
A lot of the answers to why got answered, and then I just felt a lot happier, and I thought maybe God exists, and then it just kept on going, and then one day I woke up and I thought, wow, I'm Catholic, and then that's
My name's Bryson.
My name is Yeun, and I came into the Catholic Church the same time as him, April 19th, 2025.
I came from a evangelical Protestant church, is what I grew up in. I became a materialist, like an atheist. I was just dissatisfied with the people around me and their explanations for why they believed in what they believed. And it felt like they just kind of went with their gut, like they didn't have good reasons. So I had this kind of prideful idea that I'm just going to follow the evidence. So I just became by default a materialist and an atheist.
My mom was a devout Christian. She is still. And my dad is a devout atheist. It was always an interesting dinner conversation. And I never really understood Christianity. I thought of it more as a cultural, more of a social event that you participate in every week. And then I fell out of faith in high school, explored other religions in college, and then I lost interest in it.
I was still really curious about big questions, like fundamental questions, like why does anything exist at all? What is morality? What are values in general? I pulled on that thread. I just kind of kept investigating and thinking about it. Long story short, I realized at some point that materialism just doesn't explain things. In principle, the answers don't exist within this framework, within this worldview. The world isn't just material. I looked into ancient religions, Buddhism, and other modern ways of thinking. Either people weren't even asking the questions that I was interested in, or they came to some absurd conclusion that didn't make sense to me. I was reluctant to consider Christianity because I had already tried that, I felt like. By some chain of events, which was probably divinely ordained, I picked up Mere Christianity. The opening chapters to that book is this moral argument to God. There is a moral order to the universe, and then if there is a moral order, if there is a moral law, there must be a moral law giver. I think that really struck me at that time. It was the right time and place for me. I went from there. I really devoured the books of C.S. Lewis for like half a year. And then I got into G.K. Chesterton, and he just made Catholicism seem really cool.
It's interesting because we were feeding off ideas. Although I wasn't Catholic, I wanted our kids to be Catholic. It's kind of a weird idea, but if you were leasing your house to a non-Catholic or a Catholic, I would much prefer to, even as a secular person, to lease it to a Catholic. So that was my dumb reasoning. I just began to think, you know what, why not actually believe it? Because it's not a bad thing. And then somewhere along in the process, my life just started getting better. There was meaning to my life.
Neither of us had really met any Catholics or knew any Catholics when we started OCIA. It was just our personal journey and something we'd been discussing together. OCIA was big because it was the first time to see how Catholics live, how you put faith into practice. I saw the richness of the tradition in the Catholic Church. It was good to just meet people and talk about it outside of just us two.
I really liked how there was a course and a set curriculum, rather than just saying, I believe, and then right away you're converted without any really true foundation. And then, I forget what it's called. It's the rite of something when you go to the cathedral.
It's the Rite of Election?
Rite of Election. Seeing how many people were there, just thousands of people just converting, it was so validating and so encouraging. Yeah, that was a really profound experience.
It was just nice to have somebody to go through the same thing with you. It was just fun to talk about ideas and what was challenging for us and what was not challenging. We didn't always agree, so we had little debates sometimes.
I think if he wasn't going through OCIA with me and he was still secular, I would feel a little bit ashamed. When you're first stepping into Christianity or Catholicism, there's a lot of stigma around it. So it was nice to go through it with him. We were encouraging each other in that sense.
We do have to have the marriage convalidated in the church, and we were still going through that process. You talk to the priest, you go to a convalidation course, which is like an all-day thing. Your parents sign a witness form, and then you have the ceremony at some point.
So the convalidation prep course emphasizes the sanctity of a marriage. The witness forms verify whether or not you have been in a previous marriage or still in a marriage to prevent bigamy and whatnot. I think the difficult part for us is giving those witness forms to our parents to fill out because we're still very new to Catholicism, and they might feel awkward or uncomfortable talking about it. So I've got mine to fill him out. He's still working on his.
Yeah.
Has there been tension in areas of your life because of that? What would you say to other people that might be going through the same thing?
Do you want to answer that first?
No, you go ahead.
I don't like having awkward conversations with people. And in everyday life, people don't like to bring up religion. Most people are pretty secular. You don't want to step on people's toes. And because it's such a big part of my life now, it is difficult to not talk about it, you know, or like to just like act as if nothing has changed. I think it just takes time to get used to having a new community and a new identity and doing your best to not hide it.
I think I do struggle with it quite a bit. For instance, my dad and my sister are very atheists, but they're very resentful atheists towards Christianity. And so they know that I've converted to Catholicism through my mom. They haven't directly asked me, and we haven't had a discussion about it. And if it does come up, it gets dropped or it becomes silent. And so I almost wish there was a confrontation so I could explain, but it's my identity that I'm hiding from. There's a slight window of opportunity to talk about it, and then it gets closed immediately because it seems like people are uncomfortable talking about it. Because of that, I would be a hypocrite to give advice because I'm still struggling with it myself.
There's always so much to learn. One of the things that makes the Catholic Church so amazing is how deep its roots go. There's always someone new to read. If the Catechism doesn't answer it, you can always just dig and dig and dig. The other aspect is starting to put theory into practice and starting to make a prayer life, evaluating your conscience and trying to develop virtue through a Christian framework. It's a journey, it never gets boring.
Morning prayers, rosaries, theological books as well. It's so rich and never gets boring, and I always have someone to argue with and debate with. So it's taking the Eucharist was very exciting for me because that's one thing that we weren't able to do prior to converting. I'm almost 6 months pregnant now. When I take the Eucharist every Sunday, I almost imagine the Holy Sacrament living and residing in our baby, and it almost makes me cry every weekend. But I think that's partly hormonal as well. But it's just given a new meaning to my life to be really looking forward to every Sunday for that moment. We've been really enjoying the community as well. Although that began before we converted, it's been just blossoming and been really enjoying it.